Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
My name is Kathy Braud, and I'm a watercolor artist from Little Falls, and having fun being a watercolor artist. And so right now I've got different projects going on, things to show, and I thought that maybe you, the visitors, would like to see something that I've been doing lately. I am demonstrating an elegant writer pen, and I'm going to work with a pencil drawing I've done, and then we're just going to have fun with it. So this is one I learned about last year, and I've been playing with it so much that I'm to the point of I have a lot of work that I've worked with and able to demonstrate it to other groups now so they can use this cool technique. And I'm just following down some of the lines and making up new ones as I go along here. So just in case you're wondering, well, what am I doing? Making this tree look old, and so it's just like filling in. You'll see some magic happen in a little while here. I was a nurse, and we were starting to think ahead that when we got old and gray and retired, what might we like to do with our retirement years? And a friend of mine had suggested that I would be able to, I was always admiring her artwork, that I would be able to learn how to do that. I could be painting myself. And so I took a Rose Eden class, and she came from Staples. And it was the best thing I ever did. It was a week-long workshop, and I'd always taken art in high school, but really hadn't done anything with it for years. As a mother, you know, you cook and you sew and make costumes and do all kinds of stuff like that. But painting, that was different. So by the end of the week, I could paint. I was getting blue ribbons by spring, and that was about 94. So that's about 16 years. They've gone by quick. And since then, the kids have left home. We're not retired yet, but the house is full of art. We got to a point where I needed to market my art, and so we were deciding to maybe market in through art fairs. And so I talked to one of my artist friends, and she suggested I come to an actual art fair and see what they're like, and ask the vendors. And you kind of get all that information in your mind, and it helps you make up your mind if you want to do it. Whatever you do or don't do right now, once water goes on it, then you can't go back until it's dry again. Here's my painting so far. And so it's a tree that's twined and has roots. And what's special about this is after I put water on it and it hardens, then the ink is set and I can watercolor over it. Let's just try the bottom, see if I'm going to spoil it or not. See, it's activating and it's coming alive. And I'd actually like it to get hairy and run down. Like early spring, the trees are kind of in that waiting to leaf out stage. So I take some water and I just make sure it isn't just totally soaking. And I go like this. And the lines start filling in. And one thing a person has to know about this kind of pen is that it does activate whenever liquid touches it. So if it doesn't get touched now, it'll activate later and bloom and blossom when you're putting paint on it. Okay, starting to make a little more sense. So I've got the tree covered, what I'll probably do is just let it sit, and we'll revisit this one in a little while. The tree picture has dried, and I'm sure I didn't touch everything, and so there's going to be some movement still because some of this ink has not been activated. But let's just see what happens. So I've taken up some of my tray colors down here, and I'm going to decide that I want red in the background, like there's sunshine coming through. And then you can tip it so that it drains in a direction you'd like. If you don't want something crawling back, then take it off the edge with a thirsty brush. Okay, so I'm going to have to make this big run of putting something up here pretty quick here. I've got blue over here. Mixed it with a little purple. Okay, it's going to happen. So now, that's turning out. It's bleeding into this area. It's not bleeding all over my stuff. And the fact that there's little pieces of whites and that's okay. So now I still want to bring something down into this area. I've still got some dark colors over here. And they're good colors, why not use them? Okay. So this is the roots of the tree. It's going down into some kind of bank. I think that artists have really grown in the last years since I have been artist already. There's the instruction that they're taking is good for them, and so they're making better work, and they're increasing their knowledge base. And so Minnesota is really high up on having a lot of very good artists. So I think our art clubs are helping toward that. So and here I'm just kind of lacing this blue up. And I want some of that in the tree so it's not isolated. See how I just bend my brush? It's a flat brush. And so that gives you the opportunity for flatter areas. You don't want to use it so much that they can recognize that that's the only brush you use. Okay, so this is a very blue painting yet. So now I'm going to add the color on it that would make it change again. To the blue, if you add burnt sienna, you get brown. I don't want to lose all the blue, but I will probably lose some of it. And lots of times you keep another brush on hand, and that's what you call your water brush. So that's the one that kind of fixes it so that some of the things you just did that's hard-edged becomes softer. It pushes something beyond. It changes so you have softened the edges. And that's so much more interesting than it all being the same color. It's important to have big areas of color too. So you don't want to have everything being piecemeal. You want it tied together. Notice I've even got this blue streak or white streak. I've decided maybe it needs it. Maybe it shouldn't be something else. Only time will tell if it stays that way, but. And so it's, this is very much one of those impulse type paintings. I didn't have a real lot of thought into it ahead of time on exactly what it was going to look like. And it's fun to have things that are just fun to make. People that do commission type work and that, they long for the things where they get to be totally in control and no one is telling them what colors and how stiff it should be, and I want it to look just like my photograph. There's something special about not having something so planned that you can't accept that when something blossoms somewhere, you can do something with that and have fun with it.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.